how did it start? Like, because I don't see any other competitors out there in the market. Like, is it, where did it all sort of come from?
So what happened basically was in around 2009, so we've been going for 12, 13 years now. Janet set up the company in relation to basically health and safety in workplaces. So there was a demand there for businesses to provide a safe workplace environment for their staff, and obviously drugs was a recognised sort of a hazard in the workplace. So there was a role there really for drug dogs to come into those premises, screen the premises, screen the staff, and try and keep the drugs out of those sort of workplaces.
And so what industry did you come from? Like, did you come out of the same sort of industry, or where did you come from into that?
So all of us, it's interesting because we're very fortunate, all of us in the company. We're only a small business, but every one of us is a professional dog handler, so from government organisations. So I was fortunate enough, I spent all my career in the police from when I was quite young.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Did a good number of years in there, and most of that was as a dog handler.
Right.
Here in Auckland.
They call it what do they call the dog squad?
Oh, they call it. They've got a call sign Delta.
Delta.
Yeah.
Delta. That's the one.
So that was my background, and that was just I was given an opportunity and thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest with you. Ended up there. I was one of the trainers in Auckland when I left, so training sergeant, and Janet and the other staff. So they've all got a similar background, but they come from what used to be the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, and now is NPI. So they're quarantine detector dog handlers. So when you come through the airport, the beagles check your baggage for risk quarantine items. So that's the background that they all came from, and in fact ended up being trainers in that organisation as well.
Okay.
So professional experience rather than sort of hobby background.
But I guess through and through you have to have a love of dogs, right? You gotta like love dogs and appreciate dogs' behaviour and that sort of thing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I mean that's part of it. If if you've got enough drive and passion to get into that industry in the government agencies, then it just flows on from there. But yeah, for sure, you've got to love the dogs. It's not all glamorous working with animals, but it's certainly very rewarding. So yeah, that's a big part of it.
Just there's Java lying down at the moment. We do actually have one of the dogs in here, which is pretty cool.
Come here,
just poke your head up there.
Java, hop
get up on the table. Yeah.
Java, hop up.
She's shy.
She's shy.
Beautiful dog though.
She is. She's lovely.
Good nature.
Sorry.
Good nature.
Yes, she is. She's wonderful. She's sort of dog that can be petted by anybody.
Yeah.
And so she's a pleasure to work actually.
That's good. You see a lot of, like, having just become a dog owner ourselves, you learn all the little tips and tricks, but you never sort of approach a dog and try and pat it on its head, and you always sort of
that's right,
kind of let it come to you a little bit.
And we get asked all the time when we're out working, if I'm working in whatever field I'm working in, if it's an apartment building or if it's in a workplace, people ask first generally if they can pet the dog, and we prefer they don't, but we're lucky that with a little dog like this that she doesn't actually mind. So
is she a little dog?
Well, I say little. She's a reasonable size. We've got some bigger ones. We've got a mixed bag of dogs in the company.
So how many dogs do you have altogether?
We've got about 9 in the business. So each handler has 2 dogs, and we've currently got 1 in training.
All right.
So,
and where do those dogs come from? Like, where do you are they bred, or are they where do you actually get the dogs from?
No, so that's a really good question. What we did, Janet's idea really early on in the business when she started, was to have a point of difference from the government agencies who require a certain look or a certain breed.
Oh yeah.
And so we went for rescue dogs. So we've got a real range, and there's some fabulous rescue agencies out there. We've got 2 currently in our program that are from the Whangarei SPCA.
Oh wow.
Fantastic people up there, do a wonderful job, and they just happen to give us a call, and we've got 2 of their dogs. We've got ones rescued from other private rescue agencies. We've got a formerly really badly behaved guide dog that didn't quite make the grade.
Yeah.
So we've got a real variety of animals.
It's a shame that the rescue dog thing even exists, right? Like, I mean, I don't think I said that right. The fact that you have to have the rescue dog thing. If dogs were treated well and looked after by owners, they probably wouldn't have to, have a rescue dog situation.
Oh yeah, look, it does, and the thing is with all the breeding that goes on, they're making money out of it. So we just sort of took the tack that, if there's these animals out there that can be used and utilised for their natural instincts and their natural abilities, then that's probably the path that we wanted to take, and it's worked really well.
Are there any particular breeds that make a good detector dog?
Look, traditionally, as you would have seen, the police, customs, and those sort of agencies will use like Labradors for drug detection work. I'm generalising there, but they do use other breeds. But no, we've found that as long as it's got the right drives for us, which would be we train them with food, so a food reward. So if they've got good food drive, they've got an ability to use their nose to search things out. Then and as long as they're environmentally sound, so they don't mind loud noises. They have to get used to that sort of stuff in workplaces, from forklifts beeping around to loud bangs in manufacturing operations and things like that. If they can overcome that sort of stuff, we can pretty much train them.
So that's the obvious next question is, how do you actually train them? You say you use food in that, but how do you, what's involved in training one of them?
Food is the reward that we use. Training wise, we're basically, you're teaching a dog. It's got to be fun for a start. So you can't compel a dog to work. It's got to enjoy it. It's got to be fun, and that's where it comes back to those natural drives I talked about. So it's got to naturally be inquisitive and want to sniff things out, and it's all a game. So we basically treat it as a game. We'll hide. We're licensed to carry certain types of drugs, and we'll hide them in tubes that have perforated holes in the end of them, so it allows the scent to escape.
Right.
And we teach the dog to odour recognition, so to recognise certain odours, and we reward them with food for doing that.
That's quite interesting to me that you're registered to carry certain drugs, but I guess they got to train the dog somehow.
Yeah, exactly. We have to. You can't train them on pseudo odours. You can get pseudo odours which aren't recognisable as being the real item. So we had to have real drugs. So we went through the process, and it's a long, drawn out process.
So there must be a hell of a process.
So
to
we're
go
licensed to carry and hold the drugs. Very secure safes, and there's a whole lot of regulations around it, but enables us to access those and be able to train properly on the correct odours.
Yeah, because if you trained on a pseudo odour, then the dog would recognise the pseudo odour and not maybe the real odour.
Well, exactly, and brings me to another point. We certify these guys once a year, so in order to do that, we have to have the correct odours to certify them on, and they have to be, the process we use. It's we went down the path again of setting a standard that was really high for the private sector. So we ended up using what they call SWG group, which is Scientific Working Group Dog, and it's basically a standard developed by the FBI in the United States. And they don't operate to the same standard here. They have their own definitive standards, the police, customs, and those agencies, and they're very, very good. But we needed one that we could actually put get a standard for, and that we could stick to that standard, and we could test them to that level each year. So
when I said before that I don't see any other companies doing what you do. Are there other companies out there that do this?
I think there is a couple of sort of smaller operations out there.
But the reason why I said that is because you guys don't actually have when you have to certify the dogs, who are they certified by? Is it yourselves or?
We do certify them ourselves, but it's strictly sticking to those or adhering to those SWG dog guidelines. And so and where we can, we'll get an independent assessor in, and that's simply to ensure a fair test. In other words, we're not cheating the system.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like it's an interesting that you guys are in an industry much like our own that doesn't have like a governing body, and you end up having to set your own standards.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, and that's why we wanted to set a high bar, you know, and make it so that there was a standard.
Yeah,
and that we were making sure that we stuck to it.
That's good. That's good to know from our point of view, because I had no idea that you had to certify the dogs and.
And the other advantage with that is that if we were required to give evidence in court, be it for a health and safety issue in the workplace or whatever it might be, employment court, whatever that might be, we can, our guys are, because of their backgrounds, can qualify themselves as experts in that field. So that, accompanied by the standards, that's I think that sets us apart.
Yeah, cool. So working with dogs as opposed to working with humans, that must be very interesting, right? The dog becomes your best mate and your work buddy.
Yeah, look, it does, and it's very rewarding. It's not without its frustrations, like any work, but it's incredibly rewarding. And you know, the thing is that when they hit their peak, they start off like everything. When you're training a person in a job, they start off at a certain level. Yeah. They develop with their confidence. And by the time they hit sort of middle age for the dog, which is maybe 5 or 6 years old, they're at their peak, and it's great. They're giving you the results that you want.
So what age do you retire a dog?
In our business, it's not overly physically demanding. So they can work till they're 10 years old. There's no specific reason. It's dog dependent, really. And
so every dog's different in that regard. Like you might get a young one that's not so good, or an older one that's not so good, but then the opposite as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's the physical side of it. I mean, there might be some genetic reason that a dog pulls up lame at younger age than some do, but generally it's fairly low impact what we do. So there's no reason we can't just, and as long as they love it and keep enjoying it, we just work them until we get the fairly good idea when they're ready to retire, and then we'll have a replacement sort of in the wings.
I guess the good thing about working with a dog is they probably don't have the same employment agreement as a human.
No, that's very true. Look, we always used to joke that when they get to a certain point, if they could drive the car, they wouldn't need you, to be honest. And she's probably, this one here is probably as good a typist as I am. So so yeah, they're fun, but it is very rewarding.
And so do they have like a base or a home or a kennel? Like where do they live at after hours?
So just live at home like anyone else's pet, I guess. And we have we provide kennels for the employees.
Right.
And they're treated,
and for the dog as well.
And for the dog as well. They're treated like part of the family, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Well, that's, I think anyone that's that has a dog, or recently becoming a dog owner ourselves, man, they become part of the family so quicker, and you almost think, shit, why didn't we get one of these earlier? Or I can't imagine the dog not being there, and it's amazing how attached you get to them.
Yeah, definitely. And our guys are on the road as well, because we cover the whole country. So our handlers will take the dogs on road trips to cover. For example, they might do the Bay of Plenty for a whole week. They might do Napier. They go down to Wellington, the South Island. Lady that works for us, she covers the whole South Island. Wow! So she does a lot of miles, and the dogs sleep in the back of the Hilux. We've got very comfortable sleeping arrangements in the back of the Hilux. So so you get, it's a very close sort of working relationship.
No, it's good to know that you obviously treat your dogs bloody well and that, but it's nice to know that they're well looked after, and they've got a great purpose, right? Do you think they understand that they've got a job, or do you think they're just having fun?
I think they just think they're having fun, to be honest. But I mean they do, for sure. They would, the sort of animals that we tend to choose, in that they've got that high drive, they'd be totally destructive as pets, and they're the sort of dogs that we're getting because of that. We're getting dogs. We've got one that we've got at home, and his SPCA record simply read nuisance, and he still is, really, to be honest. He bugs his head off all the time, but without work he'd be diabolical. So it gave him something to do, to channel all that energy into, so
I guess much like a person, right? Like if you don't have a purpose, or you're a bit of a fidget, you can go off the rails pretty quick. You need to have something to keep you occupied and keep you on track.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure it's the same. It's the same concept. Yeah.
So when you dealing with a client, I guess like the reason why we're having this chat today is because you guys do checks in a number of buildings that we manage, and we think it's a bloody great service. The residents and owners think it's great, and so when you bring a dog to a building, do you have to? Is there like a little process you go through? Like, do you sort of get it all sort of prepped and ready to roll, or how does it go from the time it steps into the building? Like,
No,
what do you have to?
well, when they're experienced like these guys are now, they just know what to do. So you'll see that I've got little girl I've got here. She's got her harness on, and once you click that harness on in place, they sort of switch into work mode.
Yeah.
And similarly, when you take it off, they switch off. So no, you put the harness on them, and they know what they're about.
It's funny that because when you go to take your dog for a walk at home, as soon as you get the leash out there, like by the door, and they're keen as to get out of the, put the collar on or whatever, they know that what's going to happen.
Exactly, it's the same principle. So no, when we go into buildings, and that is a big part of our work now. The sort of drug dog screening around the common areas of apartment buildings has got bigger and bigger. So and there's more demand, and as you say, people seem to appreciate it. Certainly, the body corporates, the building management companies like yourselves. It's just part of a service of trying to keep the place safe and clean for the occupants.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I remember a building a few years ago where we engaged you guys. I can't remember which building it was, but I remember the situation where we said, right, we've engaged NZ Detector Dogs to come through the building on a regular basis, and put a note out to all the residents, and literally like that night and the next day there were several people that just bolted from their apartments and moved out. They were just gone, and I think they're obviously aware that they're thinking, oh shit, we might get found out here, and we don't want the dog sort of indicating outside our door.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you do get a little bit of you get mixed feedback. It's predominantly very, very good and very pro. You get the odd one that objects to it, and then once you explain what you're actually trying to achieve, they're really, really good with it. I mean, the idea is to deter a problem before it even starts. So there is a deterrent, factor to it.
Oh, even just the little sign that you guys have, that
exactly.
In some buildings it says it at the front door, and it'll probably make people think twice if they're a certain way inclined with their recreational habits.
Exactly, and also, once they get it, once they understand that you're not trying to be the police, it's not about prosecution. It's simply a health and safety. Like a body corporate, a building management company, they've got obligations, as you know, to provide a safe, healthy environment. And interestingly enough, the amount of and I didn't realise this until I started working in the apartment buildings, the amount of people that live in there now with young children.
Yep.
And the last thing they want is, well, two things: the smell of drugs, and in particular cannabis, marijuana, because it's got a strong smell. They don't want that wafting through their windows or their vents, and the kids being exposed to it. And of course, the antisocial behaviour side of some of these places that are into illegal drug activity.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question. For how did you guys find the whole COVID period? Because I think we were discussing before that we've seen the demographic in the CBD especially, that's changed. So has that meant a different environment for you guys?
Definitely has, actually. So we noticed, I think it's because the feedback is it's because the students from overseas are no longer coming in, or certainly haven't been up until now. So there's a lot of empty apartments, and in some pretty nice buildings. So it wasn't limited to some of the cheaper apartments. It was all around across the board, and there was quite a bit of disruption caused through, some of the social housing that had come in, and that's not being derogatory, it's just stating a fact.
It is.
And a lot of antisocial behaviour came in, not necessarily from the tenants or themselves, but a lot of their cohorts, coming and going at all hours.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because a lot of the time the tenant is fine, like social housing tenant, whoever, they're fine. It's their bloody mates, it's the people that they bring into the building that cause the issue, because they don't care, like they can just bugger off, and it's the residents' responsibility to pick up the slack pretty much.
That's right, and that's exactly what we found. So I think a demand for our services because of that sort of increased, and there was a few safety issues came into it as well. It's quite interesting because what we've had to do now, we've found with certain buildings, we've got an obligation to our staff, health and safety wise. We've actually had to insist that they get escorted around by security staff in certain buildings, and particularly some of the ones with the external breezeway set up, so that potentially if someone was to play up, you could, there's nowhere to go except over the side.
And I've got a very similar situation that we had with one of our staff, where we said, not with our staff but with a particular committee, we said, here's the issue, we need some security in the building because our staff and contractors are not safe because of some of the type of people in there. And they ignored it, and they said, no, that's your own problem. And we said, okay, thank you very much, and we resigned from that building because we weren't going to have that crappy attitude for a start affecting the health and safety of our staff and our contractors, and if that affected say you guys, because we engaged you to the building, we'd be bloody beside ourselves that something had happened because of inaction from a committee, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the feedback, the general sort of consensus, general feedback we get, and in the industry, as you know, word gets around very quickly as to which buildings have that sort of problem, an antisocial problem. So we don't hesitate to insist that we have security.
Yep. And so that must be kind of weird walking around with a security guard as well, is it?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but often building managers have accompanied us anyway in the past. Right. So as long as they we just set the rules a little bit in terms of where they stand, so that the dog can actually concentrate on what it's doing. That's
interesting that you say that, because I was going to say, how do you keep the dog on task, like while it's doing its job? Does it ever get distracted, or is it?
Yeah, for sure. Look, there's always distractors because you'll have, for example, food lying around the place, rubbish bags dumped outside the place. Yeah, of course they get distracted, but they get back on task pretty quickly. I mean, they know what they're about, and we know how to get the best out of them. But yes, there is distractions for them, so that's why we sort of want to get either have security or a building manager there helps us, simply because it keeps other people out of the road.
Have you ever had any situations where like a resident's been like aggressive or sort of challenged you on the spot or anything like that?
Not really in apartments. Workplace stuff, our guys do find that actually. They get the odd person that, reasons only known to themselves, in which we suspect we know, they have a bit of a meltdown. Buildings, not so much, but I'm expecting it a little bit more, which is why we preempted it and sort of got the security side of things sorted, because it's not an option. Our guys have got to be able to concentrate on what they're doing without the distraction of being abused or
Well, we certainly know from our side of things that once you guys come through and do your service, we get that report that you guys send out is fantastic, like very clear to read, very good detail, so that we can, it identifies the apartments and things. And our process from there is that we will find out either the resident or the owner, if it's a rented apartment, and then we go to them and say, look, we've had a detection. What do you call it, a detection or
indication?
Indication.
Call it, yeah.
So we've had an indication by the drug dog. As a landlord or property manager, you may want to investigate this. And 9 times out of 10 they do, and you get a good result, and that person generally moves on from the building. But yeah, I was wondering if there was any cases where you have pushback. So not so much in residential, but more in the commercial, right?
Yeah, a little bit of pushback. It's actually surprisingly though, most people are very, very pro, and even in the workplace. So apartment buildings, not so much. We get the odd person who gets a little bit annoyed the fact that there's been an indication in the area outside their apartment, and what we can say is it's not necessarily your apartment. It could be the one next door, one down the hallway, depending on how the scent pools in the hallway. So once you explain that to them, they're fine.
And I guess in an apartment, like, you're not actually going into their apartment, you're in the common area hallway.
Exactly.
Whereas in a workplace, potentially you're going right up to where someone's working, or is it you still got boundaries?
No, definitely. I mean, there's certain industries that you don't go into, food processing areas where there's hygiene regulations and things like that, so we don't screen in those. But in the workplace, we're definitely getting in and screening the staff, and the work areas. Apartments, it's all common areas. Yeah.
And so from a workplace point of view, because that's quite interesting, are they sort of high risk workplaces or just any workplace?
No, there's a real variety. We do a lot. We do places such as food processing industry, transport industry, construction's huge, obviously. Safety on construction sites is a major issue, or a major priority, I should say. So, we do a lot of the big construction areas, industries in the cities. We do primary industry sites like meat processing plants and places where. So the difference between, and you'll know that drug testing's done in workplaces. So the difference between doing drug testing and getting the dogs in to screen, dogs pick up actual drugs. So we can actually find drugs on site, in people's pockets, that sort of thing, as opposed to a drug test which will just tell them whether you are under the influence or have certain drugs in your system. But one of the other issues we screen for the food processing industries, so they cannot afford to have, as you can imagine, they can't afford to have someone taking drugs into the workplace and it accidentally getting dropped in a food processing area. That would be your industry, that'd be dire for your industry. So that's another reason that we get called into those places.
And do you get good feedback from the operators of those workplaces? Like they obviously love the service because they see the benefit in it. Do they give you good positive feedback as well?
Yeah, we get very good feedback, and they don't always tell you the results of a dog indication. The dog may indicate on somebody or on a vehicle. They don't always, rightly so, there's privacy issues. They don't give you the results, but you'll get very good feedback. We do get good feedback, and in fact, most of the staff love you coming through. They love the sight of the dogs. They're not sort of aggressive-looking animals. They're all professionally presented, and I think that's just a nice change for them to see the dogs on site.
Yeah. So, just going back to the COVID thing, and I guess the phase that we're in now with this bloody pandemic, it's affecting everybody, isn't it? Every workplace. Have you guys had issues finding staff, finding handlers? Because it's not the most sort of common profession, is it? I'd imagine you have to have quite a bit of training to handle a dog.
Yeah, well, as I've covered before, the background of the guys, so it's they're a specialist. They've got a specialist trade, if you like. Yeah. No, we haven't, because we're not currently looking. We've got. Janet said the other day, and she's right. If we could handpick the crew that we wanted working for us. The current ones we've got would be it.
You got the dream team.
We got the dream team.
Yeah,
that's what Janet said the other day, and so we touch wood that they stay with us. So we're not actually recruiting, and although we do get a lot of inquiries in that regard.
Inquiries from what, people that are looking to join your business, or are they just curious about the industry?
Both, I think, but particularly ones that want to become dog handlers, and of course we point them in the direction of the government agency so they can get the proper professional background.
And have you found with your team, because you say they come from sort of certain police or government agencies, are there certain agencies that handle dogs better than others, or are they all much of a muchness?
No, I think they're much of a muchness, to be honest. They have different, I know for a fact that the MAF or MPI program for the quarantine dogs was set up slightly differently than the police and customs operations, but very professional. So no, I think they're all very professional.
I'd have to say Java is like, I don't even know she's there.
She's actually gone to sleep. Yeah.
I hope that's not a reflection on what we're talking about.
No, she's fine.
Man, that's awesome. And so, like, looking after the dog and stuff, like, what's the diet like?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. We've got one of our very good clients. They make a dog food, so we use that for the dog. So it's a product of salmon bycatch product.
Right.
So it's very, very good food, and it's got all the omega oils and stuff like that in it.
What's the name of it?
It's New Zealand King Salmon is the company.
Right.
Put a plug in there for them.
Right. Okay.
And it's Omega Plus is the name of the dog food.
Okay.
So thoroughly recommend it.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that it's the only product actually we found that all our dogs could eat. You know, there's usually ones that disagree with one and not the other, and
I was going to say, so dogs can be fussy like people.
yeah, or their systems don't tolerate certain things, you know. But this salmon product, it's a dry food like most dog foods, but it's fantastic. So,
awesome.
Yeah, that's what they.
So they're a client of yours as well. So
yeah, they are.
Do their workplace and get the
we
dog
do.
food from them.
Yeah, we do, and it's just that's how we got onto it, was working with them or for them. We got onto this product that they made and found it fantastic.
Do you have you come across any, what do you call them, like any naysayers or people that don't quite believe that the dogs are doing this sort of work and that they're actually accurate or whatever? Do you have any doubters?
Yeah, not that often, but the ones that do, there's usually a reason that they did it.
Yeah, true.
So only the ones that have got something to hide, generally. You know, that's the general feedback we get.
Yeah.
You know,
I just recall being in a meeting one time and someone piped up and said, "Oh, they bloody dogs! Like it's not even real." And I sort of looked at them and said, "You got the creature on the planet that's probably got the most sensitive nose.
Yeah.
They're trained to the nth degree. Like, what's not
Look,
to be? And they were a police officer."
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think there's a degree of people got to be realistic with expectations as well around this sort of thing. And you know, the apartment work we do, you've got to be realistic what we can achieve. I mean, there's a large degree of being proactive about it, but the results speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some fantastic indications from the dogs, and they've proved to be 100% right. So I don't know. You'll always get someone who doubts things, I guess, but
Well, how can it be wrong? I mean, like, how would their nose not actually? How would it lie? You know, it's not going to.
Well, that's a good thing about working dogs. They don't actually lie. They just you know, they're showing you what they show you, and they don't. They're not biased or anything else. So we can only report, of course, on what we find, and often, you know, you'll get a comment that you know, we suspected that you would get the X, Y, and Z,
right,
and we didn't. And all as we can say is we can only tell you what we found on the day. That's pretty much it. And you know, if you've got other reasons to suspect things, then perhaps you need to, you know, take another approach as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's we consider it to be a little tool in our utility belt, if you like, of services and that we can offer to buildings to improve them, you know, to make them better places to live.
It's just one of the tools, isn't it? So it's just another way of helping that achieve that, really.
Yeah. So what do you think? What's the future like for your industry? Like, is it the type of thing that can ever be replaced by technology? Because I mean, I dare say there's no sniffing machine that can work as well as a dog. Like, what's sort of, you know, 5 or 10 years down the track for you guys?
Hopefully I'll be retired by then. No, look, I don't think it can. You know, I mean, I know there's technology that's amazing, isn't there? But the dogs will always, I think there'll always be a use for the dogs. They can get into places that you can't necessarily get with other equipment. You know, they're mobile, they're easy to operate if you know what you're doing. And no, I think there'll always be a place for it, for dog detection. I mean, you just need to read the paper to see that they're training them to find things like COVID now and cancer and all sorts of things. So I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
I heard about the cancer thing, and so is COVID a thing now too with dogs?
Apparently so, yeah.
Wow. How would you train a dog to sniff COVID? Like, is it off a sample?
I think I can't answer that off the top, but I'd be guessing that it's some sort of an odour capture situation where you gather odour and let the dog sniff at it in another location, perhaps. I can't answer that, but anything that's got a odour, you can train a dog on, really.
Right. Okay. So aside from the Detector Dogs, do you guys, are there any other services that you offer as a business, or is it just purely the dogs?
No, we specialise in drug dog detection, so that's us.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. So that was there's other companies around that offer all the support services that go with that same type of with the drug testing and that sort of stuff. But that's obviously something we don't get involved in. I think it'd be a complete conflict of interest if we did both. So no, we specialise in our bread and butter, which is dog work.
Yeah, and just going back to like the life cycle of a detector dog, a working dog. So they have their working life, which spans how many years roughly?
Well, I'd say sort of, on average 8 or 9 years old.
Right.
Would be sometimes a little older, I think, but would be about right. Yeah.
And then once they retire, do they go off to are they rehomed, or what do you do with them after?
No, not at all. Look, in our business especially, we always make a point of keeping them.
Oh.
So you end up with a whole lot of old retired dogs lying around the place as well.
How many dogs have you got?
We're down to 2 now. We lost 2 last year,
okay.
so they were both retired dogs.
Yeah.
They just got to a certain age, and
Yeah.
And the same with our other handlers. They definitely want to keep the dogs when they retire.
See if she'll get up on the. Is she allowed to put her paws up on the table? I don't mind if she wants to.
Jump. Oh, what's up here? Up. Jump up.
Oh, g'day. There you go. Awesome.
Guest appearance.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I just can't believe it. She's just been so good. You're a bit sort of worried that she might have been a bit uncomfortable, but she's been real good.
She's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I guess just to wrap it up, like you must have a few sort of funny stories from that you can share with us. There must be a few blooper reel type moments with the dogs.
Yeah, there's plenty of blooper moments when for sure when you're working dogs, but there's also a lot of funny stories that happen, and I just think of one very recently where we went into a building in the city here to put the drug dogs through, and someone must have seen us coming out the window. We screened the building from top to bottom, so went down, and the dog's sitting outside this door, and there's a whole lot of cannabis plants in a pot plant straight outside someone's door, and she obviously indicated on it, and the owner came home and he was absolutely distraught because he said there's nothing to do with me, and we had to take him on face value. And then unbeknownst to me, the dog had indicated outside an apartment a few floors up. And then when we went back over the CCTV footage, it showed you the guy coming out of his apartment, the one that she'd indicated on upstairs, walking down stairs, putting the plants outside some random guy's address, and in the hopes that he would reclaim them later on. So, you sort of get it all. Yeah,
it's one of these like from our point of view, it's one of these industries where you think you've seen it all, and then you have stories like that. Like we've got tons of stories like that too, and I often think that what we do, and probably what you guys would do too, would make a good reality show. If you had a camera crew following you around doing your stuff, you'd see some hilarious sort of
you do
episodes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, she's under the table now. Yeah. But no, that's cool, man. I've enjoyed the chat. Hey, it's been really good to get you on and chat about it. And it'd probably be I'd like to have you on again, further down the track if you're keen and interested. But just enjoyed having you on and learning a bit more about what you do and old Java there too. Good to have an animal on the show, because I think they say that working with animals can be quite tough, but you guys have got it down pat.
It's great. Hey, look, appreciate the opportunity to come on and explain a little bit about what we do.
Yeah, cool.
It's been great.
It has been good. Yeah. Cheers.